that exciting? I'm trying to be more free and easygoing. Is it working? I'm your host, Ella Yurman. We have a great episode for you tonight, but first, a little bit of housekeeping. We've got 2 live shows coming up. First, on election night, November 5th, you can catch us on YouTube as we stream our election coverage live for multiple unedited hours. Second, 1 week later, on November 12th, we will be doing a live taping in the flesh at the Bell House in Brooklyn. Ticket link down below. Please get tickets. Please. Please. We've got a great show for you tonight. We are diving into ADA legislative maneuvering. Fentanyl is here. And we have our first legitimate politician guest. But first, Trump was targeted in an assassination attempt for the 2nd time this year, this time at his golf club. The shooter apologized, explaining that he thought Mar-a-Lago was a school. I can't believe that a second attempt has hit the Trump campaign. What's next? Someone's not gonna hit the Pentagon? Chappell Roan refused to endorse any candidate for president. Wait, I thought those liked us, said Kamala. Look, at least when Kamala's president and nothing changes, someone will be able to say, I told you so! They keep making me sing on this show. Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris, prompting Trump to post, I hate Taylor Swift. Period, said John Mayer. Israel targeted Lebanon and Syria in a deadly exploding pager attack. Pennsylvania Representative John Fetterman weighed in, saying,
I absolutely support that. In fact, if anything, I love it.
I know I shouldn't care what a fake progressive who looks like Guy Fieri had a gambling addiction so bad he could only afford to dress like Dobby has to say. But if anything, I love it. For real. I hope the sad lamp you bought on Temu explodes next. Hillary Clinton recently claimed that Palestine protesters on college campuses were influenced by foreign money, and that algorithms on TikTok were anti-Israel right off the bat. God, can someone please just introduce this bitch to pickleball so she will stop talking? P. Diddy has been indicted on sex trafficking and racketeering charges. His lawyer, and guy who looks like he just found out he's Diddy's lawyer, defended Diddy to TMZ on the 1,000 bottles of baby oil found during a raid on his homes.
They're essentially saying it's a lubricant for an orgy.
I guess. I don't know what you need 1,000. One bottle of baby oil goes a long way. I don't know what you need 1,000 for. He has a big house. He buys in bulk. You know, I think they have Costco's in every place where he has a home. I mean, have you sat in the parking lot of a Costco and see what people walk out of there with?
TMZ reached out to Costco. Their rep says none of their U.S. locations carry baby oil.
The lawyer continued, oh, did I say Costco? I meant he does things Costco style. You know, buying baby oil, getting 1,000 salads for lunch, doing a bunch of sex crimes. Sorry, sorry. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear issued an executive order banning conversion therapy on minors in the state. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris's platform continues to be, I love Queer Eye. North Carolina gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson was recently revealed to have posted about being a black Nazi on porn website Nude Africa. Look, I get it. I've also had to say some pretty crazy stuff just so my community thinks I'm sex positive. A landlord of a Colorado apartment complex recently claimed that a Venezuelan gang took over the building. Whoa, wait. They were able to get in touch with their landlord? Lego has announced that it will go completely green starting this year. What the hell, said the red and yellow and black and blue Legos. Starting Saturday, Earth will get a second moon for 2 months when a small asteroid enters its orbit. Here's a clip. A woman sued her New York co-op after they tried to evict her and her 3 noisy parrots. She settled and moved out, but not before introducing them to a 4th and 5th bird. And finally, New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted on 5 federal charges, including bribery and fraud. Here to talk about it is City Council member Osse. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
I'm so thrilled you're here.
Yeah.
You know, it pains me to agree with a gay man about anything, almost ever, but you've been pretty vocally anti-Mayor Eric Adams lately.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thankfully, I'm not gay, right?
Well, you know, it's just a vibe thing more than anything else.
No, I am, but yeah, it's
Oh no, we're not live, right?
no, we're not. I don't think so.
I hope not.
Yeah, it's crazy week in New York City politics,
Yeah.
and you just said it right there. Finally, it happened.
Yeah, how are you feeling? How are things on City Hall?
You know, I think my political answer is, you know, I'm definitely concerned with what's happening in our city. We have a lack of leadership across the board, especially at the top when it comes to who our executive is. New Yorkers need leadership, right? They need their representatives to be helping them, not only during these trying times, but all the time. And then my, non-political answer is like, yes, like thank God.
It took long enough.
It took long enough. Yeah, I mean, this was a slow burner for sure. I mean, we made a video in my office about this turkey scandal around Thanksgiving last year, and this is coming
almost
out on
Thanksgiving now.
right? Yeah.
I mean, in light of this scandal, I really appreciate how vocal you've been. But how can I, as a private individual, trust you or any other public figure now knowing that this is going on?
Yeah, I would say don't. And, I think I would also recommend that you should join the FBI and take a deeper look into all of the workings that we are doing as elected officials. So.
I guess like a lot of this has to do with sort of like campaign finance. Can you speak more to like anything you've been doing in regards to like campaign financing and corruption in that area?
No, nothing around corruption. I unfortunately have not been courted by the Turkish government or any other government. I don't know if that means I don't know if I'm like that important enough for them or not, but
maybe a smaller country.
Yeah, right.
Czech Republic?
I know. Malta.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm in bed with Malta. No, I'm not. No, I mean I'm very traditional in the way that I do my fundraising. I ran for office at 22 years old. I did not know I was going to run for office.
You couldn't even rent a car.
Yeah, I still can. I don't have a license. So I do a lot of my fundraising through the grassroots level, calling friends, family, friends and family. I don't even take money from real estate. So I think that I'm pretty clean when it comes to corruption and campaign finance. But that's not to say that many of my colleagues are off the hook. So we'll see.
I appreciate that answer. You were at the DNC last month.
I was, yeah.
And you made a video with AOC about how both parties sort of have an insufficient approach to the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Sure.
Or the genocide in Gaza, if you're being a little bit less PC about it.
Yeah, I mean, I am very concerned with what's bound to happen in November, but also as a leftist and someone who acknowledges that there is a genocide happening in Gaza, I do know the truth that is the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are both not good on that issue. I do believe that in order for us to progress in this country, we need to, as leftists, always set ourselves up in a position of winning, at least being closer to how we can win.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that we can do that under a second Donald Trump presidency. And I wanted to, speak to that with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez.
Absolutely. I'd be interested if you could speak more to like how you reconcile personally critiquing political institutions while also, being a congressperson and working inside the system.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate. We do live and exist in a duopoly in the United States of America, right? It's a two-party system. And because of that, both parties, but, speaking to the Democratic Party, it's a wide spectrum of who is included in that tent, right? Whether it be centrists and moderates down to, liberals and progressives and leftists, right? So, I've always felt comfortable critiquing the Democratic Party. That's why I ran for office in the first place. I think we need to do that, right, in order to at least change the party for the better until there is, in America where there are, multiple viable political parties. But right now, I think that conversation in terms of critiquing our fellow Democrats or fellow people that I work with is something that it comes easy to me because I think it needs to happen, right? And it's been something I've been doing my entire life. So.
Well, I mean, you're doing a great job as far as, we're sitting here watching.
Thank you.
Yeah. Something else that you're doing, you're about to pass some major legislation, right?
Yeah.
You're passing a bill that's going to ban broker's fees.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if anyone in this audience has paid a broker fee before, but when you are looking for an apartment in New York City as a tenant, 9 times out of 10, even if you find an apartment through word of mouth, from a friend, on Street Easy, a neighbor, you show up to your lease signing and you're paying this broker fee ranging from 15 to 30% of your annual rent to someone that you never fucking met, right? So it's this waste of money that's on top of paying first month's rent and your security deposit. And some people are paying $10,000 just to move into their own apartment. So I have a bill in the city council that's really close to getting past the finish line that would ban that. It would require that whoever hires a broker, whether landlord or tenant, would pay a broker fee. And your landlord is basically hiring a broker and making tenants pay broker fees. So it would change that entire system and save New Yorkers thousands of dollars.
That's incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. I think it's one of the most tangible examples I can think of the way that voting local is so incredibly impactful.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think I struggle with that because I am a part of a body of government, and bills are passed every other week. And if you ask any everyday New Yorker what city council bill has impacted their life, it might take you some time for them to tell you what has. And I think this will be one that people will remember forever.
Yeah. How, just out of curiosity, how long has this bill been in the works?
It's been 2 years that I've been pushing it, but other elected officials have tried to pass bills like this in different renditions. But, I always say what, the oil lobby is to Texas, the real estate lobby is to New York City. Real estate really has an impact on what happens within our city, especially in terms of who gets elected. And you see that in terms of how expensive rents are, the types of buildings that go up, maybe even the lack of tenant protections in some of those buildings. And I've been at war with the real estate industry for the past couple of years, and seeing how they've had an influence over some people that I work with, and trying to deter the passing of this bill has been a challenge, but I think we will come out on the other end victorious.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm generally anti-war, but I will make an exception for this war of yours.
Well, I think that's New Yorkers. We're nuanced people, right? I think a lot of us say that we're anti-war and abolitionists and whatnot, but we're also the first to cheer when Eric Adams is getting indicted. So.
Yeah. And on that note, one final question for you: do you think that Adams is going to get nipple rings like Cuomo?
I think Eric Adams already has nipple rings.
Do you think we'll find out?
Am I allowed to say
that? Please say he's allowed to say that. I don't know where your team went.
I know.
Osse, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. We'll be right back. And now, straight from stealing all the pens from the bank, fentanyl!
admit it makes me chuckle every time.
Thank you guys so much.
Hi, I'm Yurman. In this episode of Late Stage Live, I messed up. I referred to New York City councilperson Osse as New York City congressperson. That doesn't make sense. We don't have a Congress here. What's a city council? Guess we'll find out next time. Welcome back to Late Stage Live! In our final story tonight, let's talk about the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. The reason we have ramps, sign language interpreters, and bathroom stalls big enough for the whole family to snort coke in. The initial form of the ADA was passed in 1990 and prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities across American life. Getting it passed was super easy. Just kidding, pranked! Crip Camp, a documentary available on Netflix if you still have your sugar daddy's login, recounts the beginnings of the disability rights movement that eventually led to the ADA. Or, if for some reason you're an old guy with no money, it's also available on YouTube, along with this educational clip.
Trimming/shaving your wee-wee area or your ball sack.
Honestly, I would be lost without those tutorials. I'd have never been able to free those forest sprites that got trapped in my pubes. Crip Camp follows the progressive leftists who began the disability rights movement in the 70s, like Brad Lomax, T.J. O'Rourke, and Judy Heumann. They worked tirelessly to bring attention to and pass legislation around disability, which led to people crawling up the Capitol steps to highlight barriers to accessibility.
Washington, D.C., they climb out of their wheelchairs and they crawl up the steps of the United States Capitol.
Footage of 8-year-old Jennifer Keelan Chaffins crawling up the stairs.
And then sitting inside the San Francisco Department of Health, Education, and Welfare building for 25 days to get them to enforce the disability protections covered in Section 504 of the 1973 Rehabilitation Act. Not to be confused with the 2020 Rehabilitation Act, John Mulaney's intervention. How did disability activists manage to do such effective protesting? They built coalitions across other civil rights movements, like the Black Panthers, of which Lomax was also a member. When they sat inside the San Francisco Health Building for 25 days, the Panthers provided them with food so they wouldn't starve. And you know what? I bet that shit was way better than the unseasoned slop our vaguely racist intern Tony brings me. Shrimp shell mayonnaise is not a real type of sandwich, Tony. I Googled it. American labor leader and civil rights activist Cesar Chavez and the Gay Men's Butterfly Brigade, an organization that protects queer people from big nets, street violence, also supported the disability activists. Disability activists also blocked city buses to demand accessible public transportation, which I don't totally support because I need vehicles to be able to cruise speedily over to this studio to deliver me my string beans because I am growing. Look, can't we go back to nice, effective, pre-approved protest zones like they had for the Iraq War?
Well, at least a procession will come through here. They'll see us protest.
Actually, they're using their right to cut through the lemon grove.
Okay, have fun. Enjoy your right to free speech.
That's from a docuseries I found on Netflix called Arrested Development. It's almost as moving as Crip Camp. You're gonna need a whole box of tissues when you see how misunderstood Job is. Job, I see you. The ADA was passed during the first Bush administration. So while Bush Sr.'s son was learning a fake Texan accent and planning 9/11, his administration was giving into the woke mind virus and helping disabled hippies ensure civil rights? You may be asking, how the hell did that happen? Unlike Tony's shrimp shell mayo subs, did the ADA not have some sort of secret sauce? Okay, one, kudos, whoever wrote that, for doing a callback to the sandwiches. And two, yes, they did. The disability rights movement had all kinds of spicy sauces that include legislative maneuvering and backdoor tactics. So strap on. Strap in. After the 504 sit-ins, the movement saw some internal shifts. One faction, the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, or the DREDF, was launched in 1979 by Mary Lou Breslin, a Southern Tobacco heiress, Arlene Meyerson, a Boston University radical who lived on a commune. That's right, I'm not the only one with forest sprites in my pubes. And Bob Funk, a poverty law expert who lost a leg in the Peace Corps and self-described as, quote, a white trash son of a Ringling Bros clown. Okay. Pat Wright from the 504 HEW building takeover was also involved, known as the General because of her persuasive skills. She was raised Republican, but then converted to lesbianism, like Ellen, but backwards. This conservative knowledge came in handy when dealing with the Reagan administration. After forming, the DREDF cold called leaders from Black, Native, and women's civil rights groups to meet them in DC for a formal meeting, creating the largest intersectional alliance until Lady Marmalade. All they needed now was a rich friend to give them office space and a free place to stay in DC. And they found that friend in Evan J. Kemp. As a child, Kemp was diagnosed with a progressive neuromuscular disease. He graduated at the top of his law school class, but couldn't find work due to prejudice around his disability, which is ridiculous. You don't need full mobility to practice law. You just need a dark abyss where your heart should be. Instead, he got a job at the IRS, and then the SEC, which is the saddest succession of letters since Covfefe. When Kemp asked the SEC to provide him with the accessible parking, they denied it, but they did allow him to enter the building through the garage door, which eventually crushed him. What? It destroyed his already limited ability to walk, and then he had to use a wheelchair. And then the SEC denied him a promotion, saying that a man in a wheelchair wouldn't be suitable for a supervisory position. Somebody better tell the goddamn X-Men. Because their boss is a bald guy in a wheelchair. Disability activists discovered Kemp when he wrote a New York Times op-ed criticizing the Jerry Lewis telethon for muscular dystrophy, which seems a little unfair to the man who said this.
Is that the way you really feel about it?
They can't run with me down the hall, can they? In truth, aren't they given half? Haven't they been left with half? If there's a degree of measurement.
Fun fact, Jerry Lewis is, and this is true, burning in hell as we speak. Kemp went on to run the Disability Rights Center in DC, where he met members of the DREDF and eventually let them use his office space and stay in his palatial DC apartment for free. Soon after, Pat Wright, aka Reverse Ellen, convinced Kemp to switch over from the Democratic Party to the right because it would be more politically advantageous to have Republican allies under Reagan. Kemp took her advice and quickly made friends with Reagan's chief White House counsel, C. Boyden Gray, by playing bridge with him, which is the oldest, whitest shit since the Washington Monument. Gray was a friend of the Koch brothers and also a Federalist Society member, so you know Kemp and Gray were slinging slurs while slamming down those cards. Is that how you play bridge? Reagan wanted to f*** up the Civil Rights Act and Title IX, but was too much of a little bitch to go after them directly. So he figured he could silently gut disability rights and the rest would collapse underneath. Like my faith in Tony collapsed after he told me it was safe to go on the Coney Island ride run by his troubled cousin Alessandro. Alessandro could barely operate the ride, and he just kept saying, please, please, I'm just a little ghost boy who died in 1924 on Ellis Island. Little ghost boys should not be running amusement park rides. Anyway, Kemp's bridge partners leaked Reagan's plan to gut disability rights to Kemp, who told the world. By 1983, 40,000 angry letters were sent to Reagan's office, criticizing their evil scheme, which would have been major if Reagan knew how to read. Shortly after, George H.W. Bush, Reagan's VP, sent Kemp a letter being like, this administration supports you. Okay, kind of fruity for the Reagan administration. Then again, Kemp was rich and racist, which is kind of their type. Kemp worked to help the disabled community, but he also got green booked around by an old black man whose only job was to push his wheelchair. Kemp eventually stopped having him push him around when disabled activists were like, hey, it's kind of weird that you're doing that. Stop. Like my friends to me about my Cookie Monster impression, but I'll never stop. Me want cookie. There were quite a few compromises made to get the ADA passed, and they leave a lot to be desired. Moving forward, we have to fight for equal opportunity for all people with disabilities, and that means trying to do things in a more inclusive way. So, Tony, you're fired. I don't care how good you are at camera, you're racist. And the teens are saying the show looks like shit anyway. Today's disability rights activists continue to fight to fill the gaps that the ADA wasn't able to cover. Take the disability rights advocates who reached a settlement with the MTA to make the subway stations 95% accessible by 2055. Yay! But also 2055? What? Less than 30% of stations are currently fully accessible, and yet 100% of them feature a loud guy with a megaphone yelling about how you're going to hell. Buddy, Megalopolis was in theaters. We're already in hell. Eric Adams, if you want to rehabilitate your image real quick, you could always put those renovations on a Turkish Airlines credit card tomorrow. Disability rights activists are fighting for things like HEPA filters and COVID protections that keep immunocompromised people, and all of us, safe. 2020 should have been a wake-up call, but instead the government thinks it's normal to be like, your immune system can't fight COVID? Now that's a whoopsie. Guess you'll have to just Pokemon Go die. Many people don't even know they're entitled to ADA accommodation because there's so little disability rights education in schools. They're too busy teaching condom on banana, or abstinence and condom on banana so that everyone can see how f***ing stupid and slutty the banana looks and shame it. God is mad at you, banana. Today's political climate is hostile, for sure. Kamala has been endorsed by 17 ex-Reagan staffers, and Dick, I literally killed a million people Cheney. But the political climate was hostile while they were trying to get the ADA passed too. It was hard then, and it's hard now. But we have coalition building. We have the tradition of protest, an albeit imperfect legal system, and creative ways to keep fighting. If we live long enough, we will all become disabled. Even former pro athlete Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has AFib, which is crazy because I did not think they made trans men tall enough to play in the NBA. So the next time you see a ramp, sign language interpreter, or you're doing cocaine in a massive stall with your entire family, remember the monumental effort that went into making those accommodations possible. And also, maybe get out of the stall, because there might be a disabled person who needs that stall to snort coke. Plus, it's a lot more fun to shotgun a yoo-hoo with your grandma out in the open anyway. We'll be right back. That's our show! Thank you to Parikh, to Ossé, to Fentanyl, to Reid, Skylar, our writers, our crew, our live studio audience, and to Beetlejuice, oh no! Oh, hey! Thanks for watching that episode of Late Stage Live. That was pretty cool of you. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more. And if you're a real freak about it, you can leave a comment down below. Yeah, the algorithm loves that. If you really want to help us keep making radical, queer, independent, leftist late-night television, you can head on over to patreon.com/latestagelive, where we give you BTS footage and access to our Discord and lots of other cool treats. And you give us money to make the show. Again, that's patreon.com/LateStageLive. Fuck yeah, live studio audience. End of video.